It's episode 54, Macca's Old School. It is March, Friday the 21st. Got an interesting case for you today. We're going back to our old roots. It's 1959. That's why we got the little hats on today. And we've got another guest coming along to comment on the case today. Our regular will be with us shortly. We're going to see him, Mr. John Killick. He's back from Melbourne, from the Justice Forum. Today's case is one of the biggest manhunts in Australian history. We're going to get those details in a minute, but I will give you Kevin John Simmons and Leslie Allen Newcombe. I remembered those two names. They escaped on October 9, 1959 from Sydney's Long Bay Jail through a ventilator, like an air conditioning outlet. They were on the run. They spent their first night at a cemetery in Botany in Sydney. They pinched a car the next day, and they headed to Emu Plains. We'll explain all that in a minute, and really the terrible circumstances, what happened. As the story progresses, and John knows a hell of a lot about it, it's also going to incorporate Darcy Dugan. So there's a lot involved in this story, and Bevan, who's been on his third appearance on Macca's Old School, he met Darcy Dugan too, and he's going to come in shortly, and we're going to discuss some things with him as well. So we're on location at sunny Ashfield at a service station, which was the last stick-up that Darcy was involved in, and we're going to take it over to John. Good morning, Mr. Kelly, and welcome back, John. By the way,
I'm going back to Melbourne next week, actually.
Going to stop.
Geelong next week, the 29th. We're doing a show down there. If anybody's here, Geelong Jail, the museum.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's just, but mate, what a story we have today. I'm going to take those off. Biggest, as I introduced, John, biggest, and it still is. I researched the biggest manhunt in Australia's history.
This is the problem. We're living in the electronic age.
Yep.
We're living with so much media online and from all over the world that this really a lot of young people don't know about it.
No,
they don't. A lot of young people don't even know about my helicopter escape, and that happened a lot longer. 40 years after this. 40 years exactly, and.
No, they don't, do they? This is why we're doing it.
There's a whole generation don't even know about my escape. Now, the thing is that this is one of the biggest stories in true crime, Australian true crime. And we're not just bringing the Simmons Newcombe story, we're also talking about a very good friend of Simmons. His name was Darcy Dugan. And in my opinion, the most infamous or famous, whatever you want to have, escapee in Australian history.
Yep.
If you go back to the days of Darcy Dugan from the late 40s right up until the 80s, actually, you'll see that he was headline news, newspapers, headline news, more than anybody, more than Cox, Abbott, me, and anybody. Simmons, Ryan Walker, all those got a lot of publicity, but this guy was never out of the news for 30, 40 years.
Yep.
And so we're also talking about him because he went on to marry Simmons' sister, and that's quite a story.
It all sort of intertwines.
The two intertwine, and it's. I don't think you can tell one story without the other because they went to Grafton together. They were up at Grafton where they got bashed senseless.
Well, sorry about that, John. That was a bloody loud plane.
Yeah, well, at least it wasn't a chopper, so we're going to stay.
It was starting to move.
Yeah, but I'm living in the past, aren't I?
No, you're
but
not.
we are in the past today.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this is a great story. It sits well in the annals of Australian true crime. These guys are right up there. This manhunt for Simmons and Newcombe was the biggest manhunt in Australian history at the time.
Huge.
And might very well still be. And Darcy Dugan always had a manhunt for people after him. Because he escaped many times and tried a lot of other times. So the two stories will intertwine. We'll bring it in together, explain what happened, and there's some gruesome parts that's got to be told.
Oh, there's a shocking part, but we'll pick up on that shortly.
We'll pick up on that, and the payments extracted from both, beyond imagination, what happened to both of them. So we'll get into that, but perhaps if I introduce Bevan, he's the third time that he's been here.
Oh yeah, Bev's no stranger to our little show. Bev will come on. What we'll do is, before we bring Bev, you think we'll just explain a bit more of what happened in the nasty part of Simmons and Newcombe.
Right.
We got to the point, viewers, where they had escaped. They spent the night, as I said a minute ago, at Botany overnight in the cemetery, so they wouldn't have got much sleep, and I doubt they were alone at a cemetery. But and then the next day, now Newcombe apparently was locked up or had some connection to.
He'd been on Emu Plains was a minimum security farm, prison farm. You could just walk off it.
Yeah.
And he'd been there, but he knew they had a storeroom there with food and weapons in it.
Supplies, everything. Anyone
so you tell the audience what happened.
Yeah. Well, after the next morning at Botany, they'd pinched a car and gone out to Emu Plains to get these supplies. Both of them went out there, and a screws confronted them. A guard there. And unfortunately, and sad for the family and everyone, they bashed him to death, John. They killed him.
Well, this is we're not.
I don't think that was necessary, but they killed him.
No, I agree. But to keep this story in context, we've got there have been a lot worse crimes.
Yep.
They didn't go there to intention of killing a guy.
It wasn't premeditated.
He tried to stop them, and a struggle ensued, and
I don't think he's given in.
There were two of them. No,
he should have just backed down.
He's one of those determined.
He determined
guys. He had a job to do, and he tried to stop them, and they were desperate. And
so they beat the hell out.
And we're not making an excuse for them. They deserved to be caught and punished, and they were.
Yep.
But the thing is, there have been worse crimes, and. What happened to Simmons later, we'll talk about that too.
Well, after the bashing, I believe they were separated. That was as I read it. They were separated. He went back to Botany to wait for Simmons.
Yep.
And Simmons actually made that decision and gone, fuck it, I'm going bush.
Yep.
So he's left him.
Before that, Simmons actually got a caravan and dug in the side of a road.
Someone saw him.
Somebody saw him.
John,
and Simmons held him at gunpoint. And what he did was stole the vehicle, got away. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And they were separated. Sorry about that, viewers. We've got the plane. We'll just keep going. And they were separated. He got picked up, I believe, about 2 weeks into it.
Probably even sooner than that,
And I think, and Simmons, that turned out quite dramatic. He was on the run for, I think, about 44 days, just over a month. Well, just over a month.
Well, Simmons, he finished up in the out the state forest out Wyong way, that way, and he was barefooted, barefooted, and
people were spotting him and ringing the cops, I believe.
But they were doing that. But a lot of people were leaving food for him. Now there was a big outcry from the police because a lot of people tended to glorify him a bit, because the thing is with Simmons, he's a very good looking young guy.
I've seen that.
He's a very good looking young guy.
Young bloke.
And the girls, a lot of girls, and I still remember I was 17 and I was down in Melbourne when it happened, and I had an Austrian girlfriend, and I thought things were going pretty good.
Austrian girlfriend?
Yeah, okay. And quite nice. But she, what happened, because we were both only young, and Simmons, was a mature guy, and all the publicity, the girls were all talking about it. She said, we're all talking about Simmons. She said, he could put his shoes under my bed.
Put his slippers under my father anytime.
Yeah. And it shattered me, A young guy trying to get a bit of confidence for the girls, and then she said, right, this guy can bloody jump and hurt anytime. So it showed you the popularity that he had.
Yeah. And he was pretty good looking. I've seen a lot of pictures.
Well, not just that. They brought over special tracker dogs from Adelaide to catch him.
Yep.
And he was going through there barefoot. You had a whole army. They even brought in some of the army. And they couldn't get him. And the longer that the search went, the more he became a bit of a hero. And, of course, Ray Kelly, who was later involved in...
Gunner Kelly.
Yeah, he was involved in the arrest of... Walker and Ryan later. So he made sure he was in there at the end, because he got the
Oh,
post.
yeah. Why did they, can I ask you, John, what did they call him Gunner for, mate?
Well, he killed about 3 people at least, maybe more. Roger Rogerson was a disciple of his. Another guy who used to work with him was Fred Cray. They also hated Darcy Dugan and set him up, which we'll go into later.
Yeah.
But these were bad cops.
They were. Yeah.
Royal Commissions, it's not just to take my word, Royal Commissions have gone on later on to prove what they did. And Kelly finished up working as a reporter when he retired over in West Australia.
Yeah,
crime reporter, you know.
What a bizarre, yeah.
Well,
I know he done security of the 50s trip with the Queen.
Well, he murdered quite
the MPE.
Yeah, he murdered a lot of people, but he was always in there arresting the big ones. He was,
with the cameras.
And he was there when they finally got Simmons after, 44 days, wasn't it? 44 days?
Yeah, 42, something like that, 44, somewhere around there.
He was there leading him.
That's right. Yeah, they basically got him to pose for people. We have got pictures coming up of that and Darcy. But they got him to pose and all this, humiliating, and the coppers are smiling and all that. And then they bashed him afterwards, after the pictures were taken.
No, well, you saw some photos. But when I arrived after leaving my girlfriend in 59, late 50, I got into some trouble in 1960, early 1960. I was still 17, and I went to Long Bay. I was on remand, and right near where the remand section was in those days, because Long Bay wasn't as big then, you had the what they call the OBS. Now, Darcy was often in there, and they had Simmons and Newcombe in there, and guys right near them were told us they could hear him crying out every night. They used to run in every night and flog him and bash him. And then after he was sentenced...
what do you do? Just try and cover yourself?
Well, he got guilty of murder and life, and Newcombe got 15 years. They went to Grafton. As soon as they got up there, they were stripped off, bashed nearly. And then Simmons got a really bad time there. And he was there for 6 nights. Simmons, Newcombe got out.
They let him go.
He went to Parramatta. But he got out of Grafton and went to Parramatta and got out and wrote a book called Inside Out. If you can get it, it's hard to get, but it's not a bad book. And Simmons stayed there, and I was down in Hates Division in 1966 in June, and I heard that he had hanged himself.
Stopped himself,
and his hands behind his back in 66.
His hands behind his back.
And
that doesn't.
And they said they'd near turned him into a vegetable. That they'd bashed him. So that was the terrible price that he had to pay for killing a prisoner.
I suppose, and the prison of it, and the fact that he made him look stupid for a month. As well.
Well, a month and a half,
Like they had every force after him, everything. And some of the pictures, roadblocks, dogs.
Well, correctly, sir's got this mentality. I mean, if something happens, they'll blanket punish. And they were watching movies. They were watching a John Wayne movie, actually. And after that, they stopped the movies. They stopped the movies for a while, because they were watching the movies when he escaped.
Well, that's what I believe. And I believe it was 66, like you just said. He got when he died, depression. His health was bad. He'd been bashed that many times, and he thought, "What the hell? I've had enough."
Well, that's what they're saying. But
the hands were bound.
Well, his sister, Jan Simmons, she and we'll talk about it later because she married Darcy Dugan. But the thing is that she had forced an investigation into it. She didn't believe that he hanged himself because she'd been to see him. And he never gave any indication. He felt that he was going to get out. They couldn't keep him much longer in Grafton. And so, the story is, the rumour is that they knew they had to act pretty soon. And so what's happened, a lot of people believe that he was murdered. But we can't say that. We can't name anybody. We can't say that did happen. We can say that is one of the possibilities that happened.
Oh, for sure.
Because with his hands tied behind his back, it would be pretty hard to do it.
That's just such a giveaway to me. Like, why would you? Wouldn't someone go? Well, if we've done this, you wouldn't leave his hands bound. Why would you have? I don't get that. But
maybe forensics might prove it. that had been taken off or something. I don't know. But the thing is,
bloody strange, isn't it?
if you're going to hang yourself, everyone I know has ever hanged themselves in jail. I've seen a lot of people have hanged themselves. None of them have tied their hands on it. They just hanged themselves. They jumped off the thing and hanged themselves.
It's a shocking. It's a shocking situation, isn't it?
But, that's what depression can do to people. You know?
Oh, it is.
They do it
and that manhunt, and like I said, Maccas is going to put pictures up of that.
Yeah.
But they had him in. I think it was Curry.
Yeah.
They got him there, and mate, he was covered in mud and shit. Oh yeah. And
well, bare feet.
Dogs and
bare feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But those dogs,
he was filthy dirty.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
But they were determined at that point. But they done poses with their hats, and it was like a bit of a Dillinger sort of pose. And,
it's very much like Dillinger. Yeah, and the cops were actually posing with him. Now, if you remember when Dillinger was caught,
that's right.
The cops were.
He had his arm on his shoulder. I remember that. Yeah. Who was that? That was a local big sheriff.
Very proud. Look, I caught Dillinger.
Yeah, but they weren't joking like mates. We'll have a bit later.
Yeah, but Dillinger thought he was a movie star anyway.
He did. He did. That's right. But yeah, so look, we've come up to this point. They've been nicked. Yep. They've gone to prison. Yep. It was a bloody interesting thing. So we're going to bring Bev in a sec. We might take a seat over here, John, and we'll incorporate all this together because Simmons' sister's interesting.
Yeah, well, what I should get across here is to bring Darcy into this. They met up at Grafton. They put in the same workshop, and because Darcy had been there many times and tried to escape many times. Darcy is, in my opinion, the legend
of escape
artists. And he never stopped trying. He got out a few times, but the amount of publicity he got, but the punishment that they handed out to Darcy. Yeah. But Darcy never killed anybody, never shot anybody, but he did 44 years in jail.
44 years.
Yeah, and he died at about 70, so he had 26 years out.
26 years out and 44 in, fucking hell. And he was a famous escape artist. He was a famous bank robber, but you robbed more banks than Darcy, and I'm just trying to put.
I only robbed the ones I was caught for. Yeah. but the thing is.
But Darcy, how many roughly did he rob?
He didn't have time to rob any. You know,
he kept going to jail.
They got him pretty quick. But the thing is, the manhunts for him were enormous. But they met. Simmons was a bank robber. He went in for robbing the Rose Bay Bank, and he got a big one, 15 years. That's why he escaped. They used to hand out big sentences for bank robbery in those days.
Massive. Yeah, more than murder.
Well,
that's the thing that was intrigued.
I always think it come from the banks, and there weren't a lot of bank robberies. A, because of that, and B, because the tellers had guns. And the tellers came after me quite a few times. But I met Darcy Dugan. We're going to introduce you to someone else who met him about the same time. But the connection between the two is they met in Grafton. Both escapees, both got terrible times up there. Yep. And then after Simmons died, Jan Simmons' sister came out to visit Darcy. And they finished up getting married. And there's a story there, we'll go into that later. But first of all, maybe introduce Bevan.
We'll introduce Bev. We'll take a seat over here and we're going to introduce Bev and take it up from there where the whole Darcy story, it's very interesting. So we'll take it up there, see you in a sec.
Well, this is the third time Bev's been on our show.
It is, yep. He's no stranger. Well, I mentioned that. This is his third appearance.
So, I'll just say...
we do Whitehall.
Well, I'd like to say we should give a shout out to Steve Cook and the team at Whitehall. And also Warriors, which is also do the same thing, but Steve has also branched out on his own Whitehall. Whitehall have helped us.
Hugely.
They do encourage people to tune into this show, and I do know from people that have dealt with Whitehall, and the Warriors for that matter. Yep. Warriors used to be Voice of Survivor, and in Russell Donner, and the thing is that they do what they can, and they don't charge all these absurd prices for extra photostat and this, that. They do what they can, and that's you get what.
You just talk to some of them, mate, and you get a $100 bill. So
yeah, you do. But I strongly recommend Whitehall. We'll put the number up there. But Steve, you've got a bit to say about it.
Yeah, look, Whitehall, as we've said many times. I mean, they're great supporters of us, and we're really grateful. Criminal law, as we've said many times, they do so many things, John, don't they? From a small problem to institutional abuse,
Even sports injuries, the whole
sports injuries, and like we've said before, if they, it's not their field, they'll steer you to somebody that.
This is the thing about them.
Yep.
They do that.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of lawyers just don't like
Won't
to
do it,
no,
because they don't want anyone cutting their grass. But
I think we'll put the number up there and
we'll put the graphics up. We're always so grateful. They're great supporters of ours, and they've given us coffees and things like that. And they've been really great. They've talked very well of our show, and we can't thank them enough.
Got us a few subscribers.
They've got us a few subscribers. Whitehall and Associates are the people to see for any sort of trouble you're in. We've got to have a chat real soon too. Who's the lady that works there? We were going to have a chat with her as well at one point at the cafe. Dominic? No, that was Madeline. I don't know what's going, but there was another lady that worked in the office.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she'll come in anytime.
And we'll have a chat to her and make a small sort of infomercial. We don't want to
5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, we don't want to drown the viewers with this, but it's important to us because they're great supporters of ours. So
people watch these shows, or people watch these shows. Do need lawyers. I'm always getting asked for lawyers.
Yeah, that's right.
Then give these a try.
Give them a try. Whitehall and Associates viewers, please give them a try, and thank you very much. G'day and welcome back. As we said earlier, we have a guest that's going to comment, a new Darcy Dugan. He's no stranger to Macca's old school. It's his third appearance. Good morning, Bev, and welcome, mate.
Good morning, mate. Pleasure to be back.
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you
He's
too.
looking well, and I've got to say, he's gone in the theme of it, John, the 50s, and Darcy. He's bought a hat and worn a hat.
Well, absolutely, and we, us being a bit older, we feel part of it, especially this hat. Your hat, I mean.
I love them, mate. My pop used to wear all these hats too.
We should go to the races. Anybody got any money? Or what?
We should get. We'll get a few bucks together and give it a bash. But so anyway, I need input from both of you, John and Bevan. So we'll kick off with you. Though actually, John, what continue on, I think, and then we'll go into where you met him, because you met him as a young bloke. Yep. So John, we'll pick up with Darcy and Simmons.
Well, as I said, I didn't meet Simmons, but I was there when they were getting bashed.
Yep.
And then they went to Grafton and heard about. I was in Melbourne when he died, and I did read the book by Newcombe. It's not a bad book. It's a thin book, but it's not a bad book if you're going to get hold of it. But Darcy's another thing altogether, because quite often when I was in jail, and I did a lot of time in jail, sometimes I'd bring him down from Grafton, but he'd be sick. I'm talking early 60s when they'd bring him down. And we all said, why don't they give him a break? Someone would say, we saw him in the clinic and he's only a little guy.
Yeah, there was.
The guy was a legend. He was always on the newspapers and always in there. Now I know for a fact that in 68, and 68 was the year that I actually tried a pretty heavy escape down in Pentridge. And
no.
So, Darcy would have been proud of me if I got out. But I spent 4 years in H Division, which was similar to Grafton. So I was on a similar plane to Darcy. What happened, he got offered to take part in a jewel robbery and turn it down. Now, we've got the book. I've got the book there written by the guy who knew Darcy, used to go out and visit him, knew Jan Simmons, who he married, followed through them, lost his job because of his association with Darcy. And I will show you that book. Now I've got a book here by Mark Tatler about Darcy Dugan, and because in the 60s, as I said, I was in jail quite a bit, and Darcy, they used to bring him down from Grafton, and he was very sick. That's why they bring him down. They used to really bash him, and he lost a lot of weight. He was only small anyway, and we all used to say, why don't they let him go? Why don't they let him go? Put him in a Parramatta or something. Occasionally they did, but this guy here, you can see the book there, Mark Tatlow.
Yeah.
Or Michael Tatlow. Yeah, Michael Tatlow. He wrote this book. He became a very good friend of Darcy, and that Bloodbath's the name of it. Bloodbath is about Grafton. That's what they call Grafton, Bloodbath. You would have heard that. And when you got there, you got bashed and you had blood all over you. They made sure of that. Now, the thing is, Darcy went there many times, and Simmons went there in 1960 and died there in 66, never got out of there. Now, the thing is, with this guy, he helped Darcy, wrote articles about him, was one of the star reporters for the Telegraph. And the police, when Darcy got out, he started in the 60s, he started going on about police corruption.
Yeah.
So Darcy began naming police like Cray and Kelly and a lot of others, and he, this bloke was writing up a lot of it. And Darcy then, he got a job, that Ted Knopf's run it up there.
Oh yeah.
You know that, what do they call that place up there? Wayside Chapel.
That's it.
Yeah, and he got a job there, and so he started talking and helping young kids. And he was becoming quite a legend. He was doing after dinner talks, and he was getting paid for it. And then he did stories, and all of a sudden the coppers said he's getting too big. And then they were in a nightclub, and you guys would have heard of, I think it's the Latin Quarter, and Lenny McPherson killed 2 people in there. And Lenny McPherson, everybody knows, was a pretty bad guy.
Yeah.
But he grew up with Darcy. They used to run as a team together for a while, but they went their different ways. And Darcy went the way he went, and McPherson. A lot of people know that McPherson wasn't much good, and the fact is that he often gave Darcy up for things. And George Freeman told Darcy that. It's in that book. And
I heard that a lot, John. McPherson was a big rat, particularly in those last years. I don't know. That's what I heard. But yeah.
So this bloke was in a nightclub there, and McPherson walked in, and this guy went to the toilet, and McPherson walked in and said, "Listen, are you writing a book about Dugan?" And what had happened, Dugan had sent him a manuscript and said, "When I'm dead, I want all this published. I want them all named." And the guy said, "Well, no, who told you that?" He said, "I know." He said, "I've got friends everywhere." He said, "Something will happen to you if you put that book out. And don't write any articles about it." Next thing, they call him in. Sir Frank Packer sacked him. He ran the Telegraph, sacked him.
He was tough as nails, I heard.
Yeah, well, he just was on the side of the cops.
Yep. And
Packer sacked him. Yeah, and then he tried to get a job elsewhere and he couldn't. And then his place was broken into. It's all in the book. So this is all because of his association with running with Dars. So then somebody told him that they were going to set Darcy up. And what happened, Darcy said, "Look, I already know about it. Been invited by this dog Krem to do a jewel robbery. I won't do it." But what they did set him up. They planted some jewels. They planted some guns in the roof, and they sent him away for quite a bit. And it was all headline news everywhere. It was everywhere, and this guy couldn't do anything about it except go out and visit him and whatnot. And then spoke to Jan, who later on went on to marry Darcy. But so he did that. That's when he really got sick. They sent him back to Grafton. He got because the screws hated him down. He went to Parramatta, and he mentioned in one of the articles that boys were getting raped at Parramatta. They hated him for that, so they set him up for that. Sent him back to Grafton, and he was never the same. Now, when he got out, he was still doing all right. They paid him some money for articles and stuff like that. And while he was in jail, he did paintings, stuff like that, and those paintings become pretty famous. And
that's interesting, though, isn't it? There's a lot of jailhouse art.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Bill O'Malley, one of the most famous crims down there, did 25 years. He did paintings too.
Yeah, occupied. It's something. It's something.
Well, they become valuable. Valuable.
Art on the jail walls, didn't they?
The thing is, what I should point out is that when he got out for that one, finally got out for that, right. He got out in 81, and then it might have been 80. He didn't last long. They set him up here where we've seen this service station over here. What happened, while he was in jail, Jan Simmons came out to visit him, and they formed a pretty good bond. And when he got out, she married him, and she had a business up in Canberra. So she married him, but he didn't have any money. He had huge pressure on him, and the marriage sort of split up. She went back to Canberra, and what he did, he was just, he said to this journalist, he said, "Look," he said, "I should be earning money and keeping her instead of that. It's the other way around. And I've been I went. He said, "Well, you're not going to do anything." He said, "No, I won't." But then he was offered to go here to his service station, and these guys set him up with the police. What they did, because he was going on about police, how the police used to type up verbals and convict you and not sign it. They sign it. They all sign it. But no, we didn't sign it. They did it to me. They did everybody, Joyce. They did it to everybody. And they outlawed those eventually. So Darcy was partly responsible for them outlawing. And now all those interviews have got to be done by electronic. And I was a victim. Just about anybody in jail got convicted like that.
Yep.
So what happened is that guy said, "Look, my friend is behind the counter in the service station. All you got to do is walk in, point a gun at him, make sure you point the gun at him so he doesn't have to tell any lies. He'll hand you, there's a lot of money there. He's going to hand you all the money. And you'll walk out. He'll give a different description of you. It's all set up. And you keep half the money." So Darcy gave in, did it, walked in, pointed the gun at the guy, and the gun they gave him didn't work. The cops just said, "Hi, Darcy, we've been waiting for you." Bang, got him. And and that was the end. Even the lawyer that got him out was disappointed that he'd done it. And he went.
So, John, who do you think possibly where this whole rat thing came from? Where did he get set up? Where did he get?
Well, the cops.
Done?
The cops. They let the two guys off, and Bevan's going to tell you a bit about that in a minute. But the thing is, what I will say before I get off is that, like, I really looked up to Darcy Dugan, never met him, and I went in there for shoplifting. And
we have to ask. We've spoken about this. We've got to ask. Sorry, John.
I've got to tell you this. And what happened? This girl and I, Jackie, and she later busted me out of jail. But we put cornflakes in cigarettes, usually Dunhill, B&H and that, in packets of cornflakes. They weren't Kellogg's. It was Skippy. And that was perfect.
Mr. Skippy flakes, they were better.
Yeah, well, no, it was perfect fit. You couldn't do it in a corn, different shape.
They were bigger.
Yeah. And we go in those days, cigarettes were behind shelves. They had these big cabinets, and they were there. You just take them. And I used to walk in with a little trolley, go there the day before. We'd buy the packets of cornflakes, take all the cornflakes, drop them at the old men's home. and put the cigarettes,
nice. To do,
and I put the 5 carton cigarettes in, had double-sided tape on it, batten it down, and walk out, and then go and put the cigarettes back, the carton of cornflakes back in the breakfast. Jackie go and pick it up, and I'd grab something else, and I'd watch her. No one was watching. She'd go out, and in those days didn't have all these electronic. So the girl would just look at it, and it'd have the official, because we'd already bought it, and it'd have the official, and she'd charge them maybe $1 for it, and we'd be walking out with all these cigarettes. And we used to do it $10 a day. So we did it for about a year, and then Jackie got caught at Marylands at Target, and they grabbed me. She got caught. I was going to go and get a bail and get her out, but wouldn't have been a problem. But the guys saw me with her, and they chased me, and I bloody was getting away, and a policewoman come up, put a gun to my head. This is true, put a gun to my head. And she was told to stop me at all costs. So they kept me there illegally, because I said, "Look, I'm going to sue you all about this." So they kept me there, but when all the cars were gone, there was only one car left, and that's why they did it. And they found all the cigarettes. So what they did, they let Jackie go. They sent me to Long Bay. So I get to Long Bay. I'm sitting there. This September 1983, and I'm sitting there. And what happened? I was in with a guy. He didn't have any. He had nothing. He had no radio, no TV, no books. He was just dud, you know. I thought, I got to have something. So books. I love books. So I went down and I said to guys, how do I get the library? They said it's closed on weekends, because I got pinched on Friday, this was Saturday. And I said, look, you think the guy will open? They said, well, ask the librarian, he come out, he might open it for you. I said, who's the librarian? They said, Darcy Dugan. I said, Darcy Dugan? I said, are you serious? They said, Darcy Dugan's the librarian. So I knew Darcy. I said, Darcy Dugan. So they said, he'll come out of that wing there. So I'm waiting. And I'm in the yard right opposite where he came, and he come out now, strut Darcy, and I tell you, he was looking all right. He had a little hat on, and they soldered him down, and he had spit polished shoes, and his clothes were he just stood out. He was
Isn't that interesting, the spitty shoes?
Yeah,
and that,
yeah, but he used to be a good dancer, and he was a dapper dresser always. And so he's strutting along, and I said, "Hey, Darcy, can I see you for a sec?" And he looked at me and he said,
Who are you?
and he came and he said, "Well, do I know you?" I said, "No, we never met." I said, "But I remember down in Oldham when you had that bank robbery." I said, "We were kids." I said, "We were all talking about it. We went down." He said, "Listen," he said, "that happened 30 years ago, and I got bloody sentenced to life over that. You think I want to talk about that?"
Ooh,
Yeah. I said, "Oh,
it's
well,
a bad start.
yeah."
He's in a bad mood.
I said, "Oh, sorry about that." I said, "Sorry to bring that up." I said, "But look, the reason I've pulled you up," I said, "I'm in a cell of a guy who's got nothing, and I said, I'm going to court on Tuesday, and I said, I'll get bail, and I said, I've got nothing. Could you open the line, just give me a couple of books?" I said, "I'll look after and I'll make sure we get them back." And he said, "You're getting out on Tuesday?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what are you charged with?" I said, "Shoplifting."
Yeah.
And he stepped back, and they're all watching, everybody's watching. He said, "This bloke, he's a shoplifter, wants Darcy Dugan to go down, open the library and bring him some books because he can't do his jail. He's got to do a couple of days in jail." No, fair him, he really put me on jail. And I thought, I've been a host division, 4 years down there. I've done this. I've robbed a lot of banks. But the guy's a legend.
Respect.
The guy was a legend, out of respect. And I knew what they'd done to him. And I said, I respect this guy. I said, "Yeah, okay, doesn't matter."
Yeah.
And he just trotted off. Now, what happened now? I got to add it. About 10 months later, Jackie busted me out of jail. Yeah. She busted me out of jail up in Queensland with a toy gun. And it was all over the headlines. Bank robber busted out. And he would have seen it. He would have said, "That's that bloody shoplifter.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give him a book."
Yeah. It'll start to come around a bit.
So that's the only time I met Darcy. But it's not a great story, but it's a funny story.
It's a funny story, not a great. And we talked about that when we first did a couple of early podcasts, but I had to bring it up again. Sorry, John. Well, yeah. We should. I think at this point we'll bring Bev in.
Yeah.
And Bev, you tell us your experiences, mate, with Darcy. You met him as a young bloke, and he was a bit crook. He was starting to.
It was around about that time when you met him, when I was there,
His health got real bad or whatever. But mate, you kick off. Where did you? I'm going numb here, but where did you first?
We were going into.
My bum feels like a junior burger on the grill. Sorry.
We were going in to visit my uncle in Long Bay in '84, and there was other kids around with us and stuff. And they had two out on the same visit, and we were kids, I was 16, but they were younger kids, and they told us to piss off and go and sit over there because they wanted to talk or whatever they were doing.
Yep.
And we went over, and there's this older fellow over there, and we just sat down, and he started yarning, and it was Darcy.
Yeah, wow.
And
did you Jerry at first? Or?
Yeah, I knew straight away because I'd seen things about him, and he was a legend out. He's our hero, young crooks, growing up. We
TV interviews and everything, yeah.
We loved him. He was known all over Australia and I think the world probably, So, and then we were sitting there and he's telling us the escape he done in the tram in 44, 45 or something, and it was like he was reliving it.
And it's gold, and he would have been getting excited over it.
Yeah,
as well.
but it was like you could see it, And so we were sitting there listening to his yarns for about, and he's visited gone, and the Screws let him stay there talking to us kids. Yeah. And and we sit there listening to him for like an hour, something like that, and when I went home and told all the other young crooks, I said, "I met Darcy Dugan." They go, "Bullshit." I said, "No, I met him," And it was, to me, it was like
legendary stuff.
Yeah. Like, come on, how often you get this, They
would have been dirty on you because you met him.
Yeah. And I went back to my uncle. I said, "Yeah, that's Darcy Dugan." He goes, "I know, you idiot."
Yeah.
But and it was just and then years later, I went to this prison called Menace, and I was officers' mess cook. So I had to go around and get morning tea orders off the teachers and the counsellors and
fair income,
crews and that.
Yeah.
And then cook their morning tea or make their morning tea and make their lunch.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Well, when I used to go up near the governor's office in Menace, there's a big plaque there, all about Darcy.
Wow.
When you're the jail celebrating him.
Yeah.
So because he was that well known and famous, really.
Yeah. Legend on the guy.
Yeah. It wasn't just like a little plaque. I mean, it was like probably 2.5 foot wide and a foot long.
Well, he never shot anybody. He never raped anybody. Never stabbed anybody. You know.
Like yourself.
Yeah.
Like yourself.
Well, like myself. Yeah.
And he was well respected, you know. So, but before that, going back to, I went to jail in '86 in Parramatta, and one of them guys that set Darcy up came in, and he got the biggest flogging. I don't think they realised how much respect Darcy had.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, so one of the guys that
came into Parramatta, and he got
he
got
the garage.
yeah, on the garage here, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he got
his upping.
Oh, he got whaled and sent to where he belonged.
Yep.
And then years later I went to Madison and seen that. And I went back to the unit and I was telling the guys, I said, oh, there's a big Darcy Dugan right up there, you know, stuff like that. And this old fella in the next wing, he called me over and he said, he was Darcy's friend. His name was Lindsay. I can't remember his last name, but yeah, he's and then I have.
He was a good guy, and you were talking.
Yeah, he was an old gangster, you know, like, and so I used to sit down and have coffees, listen to his yarns all the time. But he knew Darcy really well. They were friends for a long time.
Yeah, he told you a story about when they escaped from the cells at Central.
Yes.
Tell them what happened there.
Yeah, that was a good one, eh?
Yeah, well, what they did, I've got to say this, because the coppers hated him as it was, and they really made a fool of him. They got out, and he wrote on the wall, "Gone to Gowings." Now, gone to Gowings. That was a famous saying. It was on the radio all the time. The Gowings gone, and gone again, and it had on the newspapers. Darcy's gone to Gowings. Police still looking for him. I mean, you know, that's
what a classic.
That's what I mean. We've got to acknowledge.
Sorry.
Old gangsters, scapegoats, and guys who are gone, because it's a dying thing. You know. It's old school. It'll never happen again. The modern crim will never. They'll come in. The really top crims will come in for fraud and stuff like that, and probably make millions. You know.
Yeah.
Or drugs, major drugs dealers. But the old bank robber guy, scapegoat guy, the guy who had a go, was respected by all his crims. Those guys are gone. Those guys are gone. Those times are gone. And when you go back, and when we're all gone, they look at the shelves of true crime. You know, we've got Ned Kelly way back there, you know, and we've got others since then, you know. But you'll see, like blokes like Darcy Dugan.
Then yourself.
Yeah, well, then Ryan and Walker, Simmons and Newcombe, Cox, bloody Abbott, these people went to extreme lengths to get out to fight the system, whether they were right or whether they were wrong. And I admit it's wrong to rob banks. I've never applauded it.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a terrible thing to do, but you get punished a lot more than what you should, and people escape. The authorities know it. If it's a spectacular escape, that they get a lot of public secretly cheering them on. It happened with us in the helicopter, and they clamped down on us and tried to turn the meter against us, because and that's what happened with Dugan when he was going around talking to kids and doing things. They actually did set him up. And what he said,
I think the kids responded really well to him, though, didn't they, John?
There's a photo there of him talking to a kid at the chapel. And they did. And like this guy said, he brought Darcy home to his home. Now, he wouldn't do that if he did. And his wife met him, really liked him, and this guy's daughter and his little son, Darcy, won him over straight away. He brought some lollies, you know.
Yeah.
And he went. And the funny thing is, they were in some place, and it's with the mother, and Darcy had just been sentenced, gone down at a trial, and it was all over the TV. And a little kid said, "There's Uncle Darcy."
Uncle Darcy.
She said, "We try to hurry out," and one woman sang out, "What? You're not his mole, are you?"
Oh,
yeah.
You're not his mole.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But of course, this one was a respectable woman who they liked him. But the thing is, he had his supporters, Darcy.
Yeah.
And funny enough, George Freeman supported him. But
I think we got a photo with George and Lenny.
But that was the night Darcy said Lenny was pretending. But George told him later. He said, "Lenny's been giving up for years."
Yeah.
Yeah, but also smuggled some hacksaw blades to him when he was in Grafton, and did a few other things for him.
We discussed that earlier. Yeah, so it kind of, he's been ratting on him, but then other times he did help him out, and it's a strange relationship, but things like that happen. How many people you meet, and it's like you.
Believe me,
Yeah. You meet heaps of people, best buddy, and the next minute they're ratting you. But they'll still continue the best buddy for years, won't they, John?
Yeah, for sure.
But
look, it's a different world we're living in now.
It is.
And these stories are great because
you're trying to keep it alive.
We're putting it back. There's always stories out there about that. They'll do podcasts about it too eventually, and there's probably been other podcasts done. But what we've done, we've given a bit of inside knowledge. Journalists can't do what we've done.
That's right.
We've met them and been there, and I can tell you through experience that what Darcy was railing about, because he did 44 years in jail, and he was
unbelievable.
Most of the time he was convicted because he was always not guilty, and most of the time he was convicted was because the records anyway. And what they'd do, and it happened to me, and Rodgerson sealed it when I went down for one I didn't do. And what they do, they used to put you in a room and make sure you can't get a lawyer. They did it to him, and they type up a record of interview, what's called a record of interview, or this is what they used to do. And they'd put the facts, where you lived, your name, etc., to make it all authentic. And then they'd go into a fairy story they'd make up about how you robbed it.
Fictional story.
Yeah. And then they'd all sign it. And it'd go to the judge, and you didn't sign it. And your lawyer would get up and say, Your Honour, my client didn't sign this. He didn't do it. And the judge would say, well, 6 policemen signed it. Who are we going to believe? The 6 police? I would say, but Your Honour, if he...
straight away, the coppers,
Your Honour, if he made us say, why didn't he sign it?
Yeah.
And the cops get up and say, well, when criminals change their minds. They realise later, maybe I shouldn't confess, I'll just say I didn't do it. And he used to hold us all in jail on that. I got extradited to South Australia on strength of that, and then got verbal by Rodgerson at the trial. And I won it in the High Court of Australia, which means for a bank robber to win a High Court appeal in Australia, it's a big thing. It means there was something wrong. Now, that's what Darcy was on about. He felt that Jockey Smith's another one that took him on over it. And a lot of Bernie Matthews. And you know what they did? Jockey Smith, Bernie Matthews, and quite a few others. They collected, went around to different crims, and they collected a lot of these unsigned records. And, hey, guess what? Similar words, the crims were saying.
It's all a match.
Yeah.
Everything, it's like a carbon copy,
So I never met him in my life, but he's saying the same things that I would have said, you know what I mean?
Right.
And in the end, they had to outlaw him. And I remember getting extradited in South Australia, and I was sitting next to these 2 cops, and they lied about it. And I said, what are you going to do when they throw out the record? Because they were talking about bringing an electorate. And he looked at me, he said, we'll just shoot us down like mad dogs.
What a hero.
I swear, that's what he said. Now, saying that, I want it on record here. That's not my attitude or police. I respect honest cops. We need them.
Yeah.
But when you've got corrupt guys like this who lie in court, send you away, when it's something I didn't even do, then I got no respect at all for them. Yeah. No.
Yeah, no, we've had a few things like that where people have sort of thought we're making a joke of things or whatever, and we certainly don't hate coppers. We don't hate coppers. You've got to have coppers. You're going to have complete fucking anarchy. You know what I mean? So you of course you have to have coppers, but like you say, John, there's good coppers and bad coppers, and there's like everything in life. There's good blokes and there's assholes. I mean,
the trouble is in the 60s and 70s and 80s, you had crooked premiers. And crooked police commissioners, right down, and that's why people like Kelly, Cray, Rodgerson, they ran the city.
Yeah.
They ran the city.
Yeah.
And then
with terrible reputation.
Yeah, and they worked in with people like McPherson and all those sort of people. And you know, it's and like the little crook didn't have a chance. Unless you're in with them, you had no chance.
Yeah.
And I just think that people need to know why people like Darcy Dugan were bitter, and what made them like they were. Is that, partly because they did not get a fair go in court. It's a 2-tiered system. I often speak about it.
Yeah.
And Simmons, whether or not he was murdered or killed himself, he suffered that much that he probably was better off dead anyway. And
And the only finishing on the Simmons thing as well, the only thing there is that got me was what you said, hung with his hands bound.
Yeah.
If that's not suspicious, how do you bound your own hands and hang yourself?
Well, look,
I don't understand that.
I've done a lot of jail, 30 years in jail, and
Yep.
I probably know of down in Hastings, etc. Maybe 30 people I know have hanged themselves over that period of time. How many? You'd know quite a few.
Probably 12, 13, yeah.
Now, any you know had their hands on it?
None.
None. You never hear of it.
It's just really strange,
Why
isn't
would
it?
he do
Like,
that?
why or how?
Yeah.
You know, sort
Yeah.
of thing. So, but look, well, but
His curry got out, didn't he?
Yeah, he's going. Yeah, but Simmons, the one they wanted, and he got life. He still would have got out eventually, but life. Darcy Dugan had life. Darcy didn't. He didn't kill anybody. He was with Mears when they robbed that bank, and Mears shot the bank manager. Didn't kill him, but he shot him. And what happened? Darcy blew crap out him later. He said, well, "Why'd you do that? It just wasn't necessary." But he did it. So what happened? The judge, they had really bad, tough old judges in those days. He sentenced them to life. No, it's death. Sentenced them to death. If you have a look, they got sentenced to death. But at the time, Labor was in, and the Screws, and if Labor stayed in, they commuted death sentences.
yeah.
But if Liberal got in, that's when they hang Ryan, and that was Liberal. So if Liberal got in, they were going to.
They were hanging.
And the Screws used to come around and say, the night of this is in this book, the night of the election, the Screws were coming around, and the Libs were in front. They said, the Libs are in front, they're going to hang us, they're going to hang us. And,
Fucking ass.
and
Yeah.
Darcy said, Mears got up, mate. Darcy, what are we going to do? Darcy said, well, if they get in, we're going to hang us. That's what they're going to do.
We just got to wait and see the results of the election. Who goes swinging? But
But it swung back to Labor, and they commuted the sentence. So, yeah.
was there a... Well, look, thanks, John. We'll get back. We'll get a couple more minutes on you. Where were we? We'll finish you off a bit, and then we'll have a look at a few of them pictures, John, from the book.
After I had a lot of yarns with Lindsay, like I sort of got a bit of insight.
Yep.
And then years later, I remember going to a place called Glebe House.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was in room 2.
He had shocking health, and correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he get Parkinson's towards the end?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I think that last sentence I was talking to Johnny earlier, that 3.5 years, whatever, for that survey, that probably took 15 years off his life. You know what I mean? And probably done 15 years all up in jail for nothing on setups. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
That's something about that servo, and I'll say, so when he done that and they set him up, and we didn't say that before, he actually got 3.5 years, so I think he'd done 41 years at that point. With the rest, that bopped it up to 44.
Yeah,
but even then,
sick.
That's it. We're not saying it's right. What he done was wrong, but he was set up. But with the amount of jail he's done and all that, I don't know, 3.5 seems like the guy was not well, and I don't know.
What a fall down for a legend.
Yep.
To walk in, set up, with
stick
a gun,
up
that,
at
gun
the
that didn't
servo,
work.
a
Gun
stick
that
up
didn't
at the
work.
servo.
Yeah, they're waiting for him.
Yeah.
Like your gun, like the bloke would never have done that. You know, and like you touched on earlier, you know, we're all men, and if we've got a woman, you want to be able to take her to dinner. You want to be the provider. You know, like
it's worth there.
Yeah, well, it's built in, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. We're not saying it's right, but you know.
But he didn't think he was putting anybody in fear or anything like that, because he thought it was set up. The guy was part of it.
He thought it was good to go. He knew no one was going to get hurt. We're not making excuses, but yeah.
No, but it was just an act. It was all an act, as far as he said it.
Next minute, you're screwed. Yeah.
I've got to tell you one more story.
Yeah, mate.
This is told to me by Bernie Matthews. Now, Bernie Matthews, a great guy, wrote a book called Intractable, if you can ever get hold of it, legend, and did a lot to work against police verbal himself, and helped people when he got out. Went to Grafton 4 times, and Bernie was very close to Darcy. They spent time together at Maitland, and I think maybe even at Grafton. But when Darcy got sick, he came to Glebe House to stay, and Bernie was in charge of it at the time. Now, what they did, they shouldn't have, but they gave Darcy a little car, an old car, just to drive up to the shops.
This is classic.
Yeah, just to drive up to the shops and stuff like that. So Darcy's sitting there, and Darcy used to be a top dancer. He was a ballroom dancer.
I believe so.
Yeah, he's very good. And these 2 young girls are there, like they're about 50 years younger than him, you know, and they said, "Oh, we wanted to go to this dance up at Penrith. When are we to get there?" And Darcy, always a gentleman, said, "I'll drive us up there." They said, "Darcy, would you do that? Would you drive us all the way there?" Yeah, "Of course. What's a dance?" You know, "Oh, I'm a good dancer. I'll come with you." So he drove him up to Penrith, right? Well, as soon as they get there, they leave Darcy. You know, there's a lot of young blokes there, and they dance and all that's, you know, modern dances. And in the end, Darcy's sitting in a corner. Everyone's ignoring him, just a little old bloke, old man, well past it. And said, "Oh, fuck this, they can get over themselves." Cause, yeah. So he walks out, he gets in his car, he's a bit angry, he's motoring up the freeway. Next thing, the cops pull him over. And they said, "You were speeding." He said, "I'll fight that in court."
Yeah, right.
And they said,
Straight away, you're sniffing an attitude.
So they didn't like him straight away. They, oh yeah, they said, "Well, where's your licence?" Never had one in my life. You know, just staring at him. Never had one in my life.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, smart ass, eh?"
Yeah,
They said, "Oh, what's your name? What's your name?" I said, "Darcy Dugan." They said, "Bullshit." He said, "I'm done." They said, "You're Darcy Dugan." They said, "Yeah." So they get in the phone, and then he tells them, they ring Bernie Matthews. Bernie Matthews told them, "Look, he's sick. He's got a bit of Parkinson, a little bit of dementia, and he's going. And could you get him home?" They gave him a special escort back.
Police escort.
Yeah, didn't charge him. Now we're talking about police. There's a couple of decent cops, right? Young blokes.
Yeah, there you go.
And he treated them badly too.
Yeah.
And they brought him home. And they said, "Look, make sure he only drives up to the shop. If he does it again, we'll have to book him." You know? He didn't.
Isn't that interesting, Bill? And that's an real old school story that you don't hear anymore because it wouldn't happen anymore. You know, that's a cracker, John. Well, we'll have to wrap up soon, so we'll grab some. I want to get Bev a few more minutes, and then we'll have a look at a couple of these pictures, mate. Bev, where were you? How would you like to finish off, mate?
Like, I'm a very spiritual person.
Yeah.
And I could feel him. Does that make sense? Like, it might not make sense to a lot of people.
Because what I'll say to you is you get goosebumps all
Yes. And
me too. Yeah.
And I could feel the sense in him in there. You know, like the aura. Like, I'm in a room where greatness once was. And I've always held that deed in my heart. I told you that's the first time I've ever told anyone about that, because people think you're a bit nut, you know, because you say you're spiritual, but everyone's got their own way in life. And I take seeing Darcy at Long Bay, and then years later to going to Maccas and reading the stories and talking to one of his friends, old long-term friends, and then going and getting to leave house. I mean, like that, the whole thing, like all over different stages of my life.
Yeah.
You know, I think the bloke was a dead set legend. He's one of my.
I think you're both, and both sports. I never met the man, but I would have loved to. You know. And
he was a character.
He was a character, and he was once again one of that classic old school that you'll never get again.
25 foot something. There wasn't much of him.
We didn't talk much about escapes, but he never stopped trying to escape.
Yeah. One where the tram, was like...
The tram was a classic. You told me that the tram too before.
Got out for the tram.
But I mean, it's you know, if you put that, he had a lot of smarts. If you put that,
he nearly got out of Grafton,
which I heard was impossible.
Well, Lenny McPherson smuggled him the hacksaw blades.
See, did him that nice thing, but was ratting on him the whole time.
So you know another thing, like with Darcy and John himself, and then Bernie Matthews and the other boys later. Like I'm a generation or two, one generation half behind, but these fellas, these legends, and they're all legends. Put them all in the same tier. They're all legends. These guys, they've made it so that we can't cop the setups, and they brought in electronic videos. You know what I mean? So it started with Darcy, Johnny, and then Bernie, and that, and so now we got to where we are today. You know what I mean? But as John was saying, today's brand of crim. You've
got a chance these days. But at the same time, my advice is anyone who young people want to be a criminal, forget about it. From the time you step outside your door, you're on CTV. They track you electronically when you're on trains, cars, and being a criminal, it's a no-no. It really is.
I'd advise everyone, like, you think about going down that road. It's a shit road, and
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it. Like, get education. And have a life.
That's it. And why we talk about it is because it's Australian criminal history, which we love. We love. And whether it's good or bad, and people whatever deny it, it happened, and it should be discussed. So, look, we're going to wrap it up. We've got to get... Do you want to grab a few pictures of that bull? We could just say a few. These are basically some early shots of Darcy.
They do all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I stand there and you have to they say, what are you in? What profession are you? Oh, I'm in the banking game.
Yeah. In finance. So in finance.
Now, this is Tilly Devine. Now, she ran about 20 brothels in Sydney, and Darcy...
She was huge.
Yeah, he used to run around thieving clothes and things, and he got smart. He started selling them to the prostitutes because, you know, they had a bit of money and they used to buy from him. And in the end, she bought some from him, and she said, look, you can come and work for me. And he used to sit in the brothels and sell them to the girls, but he'd see different guys come in, and one guy come in and said, how much for the boy?
Oh,
and he was pretty scared of that.
I was going to say, you better lose, mate.
And she kicked him out and said, don't ever come back. But that was Tilly Devine, quite a leading, crime figure in her.
Oh, she was huge.
Lenny McPherson. Lenny McPherson.
Oh, no, Lenny.
Lenny used to, one of the ones who ran Sydney and smuggled some hacksaw blades into Darcy when he wasn't giving him up.
Yeah, he was a neighbour of mine in Glasgow.
The book, John, rather than to you, rather than show it to the camera.
Yeah, okay. Now, this is inside corridor. That's the tram. Now, this is the tram where he escaped from.
That was huge.
Yeah, they were in little cubics, and he got out through the roof there. Yeah. That was in the late 40s.
What about the top one? What's that?
And this one here is... That was escape-proof jail. Darcy escaped from destroying a hole.
The camera.
I'm just looking at where that was March 1946, and so there it is.
There you go.
That's Long Bay.
Yep.
That what they did. They at Long Bay, him and Mears went into the reception.
Book this.
In the reception, got a hole through the roof and got out before that. Still dressed in their own clothes and walked out.
Strolled down the street.
Yeah, there it is. There's the roof where they got through from Long Bay. And, of course, Simmons Newcombe escaped not far from there.
Yeah, not far.
And
Long Bay was quite popular for escapes.
Now, look, escaped felons. See how they did it in those days? £500 reward.
That's a cracker.
Yeah, now that in those days, a lot of money. That's $1,000 now. But that'd be the equivalent now to maybe $20,000.
Oh, yeah.
Escaped felons.
But these were sort of the posters a step up from the Westerns.
Yeah, that was 1949. That's when Mears shot the bank teller. Dugan and Mears arrested. There it is there. They got him. And Mears, I think Mears died only in about early 60, 2001 or something.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Darcy Dugan lose 12 in jail mutiny. See, so even inside they hated him because he had 12 guys back him in a jail mutiny. And you can see that's how big he was. That's the headline of a Sun. And next to it, truce near in Korea while battle rages. Now, what's the bigger news? He was bigger than the Korean War.
Oh.
The news about him. Everybody knew him. Yeah. Everybody knew about Dugan. Now, that's Grafton Jail. That's where they used to take him. There was two parts there. There was the tracks, which held about, about 30, and they were the ones who used to bash him.
Down at the bottom.
That's Ray Kelly, the evil cop.
Yeah.
Killed 3, 4, maybe more.
Gunner.
Rogerson's nickname. Rogerson's claim.
Yeah. And that's right. Well, Rogerson learned everything from him. He learnt a lot from him. And there he is at the Wayside Chapel.
With the kids.
With the kid. Look at the kid looking up to him. Like, see what I said about he's a dapper guy? Look.
The suit and the hanky and the whole bit. Bit of class.
That was
class there.
Always dressed in suits. Yeah. And there he is. Look, back in the cell, Dugan, the great escape. Look at the size.
Yeah.
Look, the cops are so happy. Look, cigarette in the mouth.
But his size would have been an advantage in escapes.
Oh, yeah.
Huge advantage. Yeah, especially a 6'6" big bloke trying to,
Look at the Daily Mirror there. What date's that? It's what the date there?
80. Where is it? We haven't got our glasses on.
Give me a good look at the page.
It'll pick up. You might be able to pick up on that. But this is great stuff. Look, we're gonna have to wrap up. We're gonna have to wrap up.
Darcy Dugan freed. There it is. Jan, the day we met. That's Jan Simmons. There he is there.
Geez, he looks different there, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Mate,
yeah.
he looks like a different. Look at that. Different bloke.
But I mean,
He looks run down.
She looks pretty good, Jen.
He was a bit of a sort. Yeah.
She was a good sort.
Yeah.
The day we met. The front page again. He was always in the front page. There they are.
Yeah, they are.
Jan and Darcy.
Happily married.
Yeah. Look.
It didn't last though. But,
No. Now here they are. This is a famous photo here.
Pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, she was. Look, Lenny
Ferguson,
McPherson,
Freeman,
and Darcy. Yeah.
It's funny though, because like you're saying, look at in the photo, Lenny, the best buddies, but he's ratted on him about 100 times, but he's also helped him as well.
Freeman didn't like him.
Yeah.
He told him, he said, don't trust Lenny.
Yeah.
There's Freeman there. He didn't like
Give him the money.
Yeah.
That's a book there. That's George Freeman's book. He put a book. That's worth reading too if you can get on that. Freeman's
We'll
book.
have to chat about Freeman one time.
And there's Darcy there with a letter that he sent. That's about. And he wanted this guy to write his book after he died.
Beautiful. It's a pretty good book. Thank you very much, Bev. Thank you, mate.
No worries,
get
mate.
in the shot here, mate. Third time on for Bev.
Legend.
And the legend, John, all the time, and Maccas, and thanks very much.
Adrian Didlick down at Petridge, thank you for the loan of the book.
Yeah, good on you, Adrian. Thanks very much. And thanks for all the supporters. We're over 1,200 now, so thank you so much, all the subscribers. And
We even got my granddaughter and all her, all the young ones.
Bev here has got us so many subscribers, this bloke right here.
Yeah,
so thanks very much. That was 54. 55's coming out soon. We've got a few ideas there. Couple of interesting ones
When we do the 100th one.
Yeah, and we will.
We'll do something sensational.
We'll do something sensational. Here's the boys today.
Thank you, Maccas.
Here's the boys, mate. Thanks, Bev. Third time on, legend, always. Back. We got him back from Melbourne. Well, I want to keep you out of Melbourne.
I'm going to Melbourne next week.
He's off again. I know, you're both off. They're both hitting the road again. Well, I don't want you, Melbourne, stealing you. All right, we want to keep you up in the New South Welsh area.
I got Gloria and Rocky up here, mate.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You can't leave the rocks there.
Yeah, that's right. And Glor's gorgeous. Hi, Glor.
She's beautiful.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks,
John. Marcus.
We couldn't do this without Marcus.
We couldn't do it without Marcus. That was 54. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
The organiser.
The organiser. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I've got to do my bye because I can't do swing.